I still haven't decided if I'm going to do this painting in oils or acrylics. But regardless, I decided I needed a very detailed pencil drawing. Babies are challenging to do. People are challenging, but especially babies, because they've got very few defining features. They've basically got eyes, nose, and mouth, and everything else is so soft. So some of the decision, I thought, well, I could do it in oils because softness is easier in oils. I could do it in acrylics because the fine little hairs on his head and the details in his eyes might stand out more in acrylics. This is only a 9 by 12, so there's not much space to work with when it comes to detail. And as usual, you don't want to overemphasize things like eyelashes, but he's just so soft and fair without those little spiky eyelashes, so I may have to put some in. Then again, working in oils will keep me from fiddling away too much with eyelashes. So I'm using a hard, very fine pencil. And then what I'll do is I will erase most of the pencil lines. And by using a hard pencil, it'll still leave some line there, but it won't pick up the graphite from the pencil when I start painting. And if there's something I really want to show up, I'll do it a little bit darker, and then it can withstand a little bit more erasing. This was a professional photo, and it's a gift for my niece of her little boy. And of course, I got her to get permission from the photographer to use it. And she decided she wants it done in black and white, so that will be a little bit different as well. And though I always mix my blacks when I'm painting in color, in this case, I'm just going to use black and white. If I do it in acrylic, I might use some neutral grays. But in oils, I would just use black and white because there's no need for variation of the color if I want a really monochromatic painting. So now I'll just erase my lines. And they won't disappear completely. This is a kneaded rubber eraser. Find myself a little bit of a clean spot, or sort of, and then just erase my lines, and I can pick them up again if I need them darker. But this will just keep it from rubbing off, because otherwise if I do this, I'll get graphite coming off on it. So I'm not even going to make the decision yet whether it's going to be oil or acrylic. I will start it in acrylic because then I can go on and complete it, or I can switch to oils if the acrylics are put on quite thinly at the start. Okay, so I've moved my camera a bit so that I can fit in here to paint. I'm just using a soft synthetic brush. This is a size 5, I think. Yeah, no, it's a size 6. Heinz Jordan is what I'm using, but you can use almost any soft synthetic brush. I like to use these rounds because I can get lots of detail, plus I can flatten them out to get more area covered if I want. So I'm just going to paint in where I see really, really dark. Mainly in his eyes and in his mouth. And this will be a fiddly little portrait. If I switch to oils, I might get a little looser in some areas. I will if I do it in acrylic. I'll still make it less detailed in some areas, but there will be areas of great detail for sure. I'm painting on a fine portrait linen. It's Antwerp single primed Fredericks linen. That I've fastened to a board. I did a portrait of her first child. You can search it by searching portrait of a baby. And I did that in acrylic as well. And she wants it on board because she just wants to put these two little portraits in a shelf, and she didn't want them necessarily the same size. The other one was 8 by 10, this one's 9 by 12. And of course this one's horizontal. The other one was vertical. By having my detailed drawing, I can pick out the darkest areas quite easily. Then I'll switch to a slightly lighter color before too long here and put in some shapes. But first, a little bit of hair for him. And because in acrylics I work dark to lights, even if this ends up being a dark gray at some point, it will work out fine. But you don't want to put too much dark underneath your lightest areas because acrylics tend to be sort of translucent and white doesn't cover really well. Might take too many layers if you put too much dark underneath. I'm just thinning my paint with a little water to make it flow a bit better. Might be a little hard to tell right now, but this little guy is in his mother's arms. This is her arm coming out here behind him, and this is her V-neck of her sweater. As you can see, I often use a dampened Q-tip to just kind of correct something if I feel it needs a little moving. And this is her mother's hair, his mother's hair here. She's got long dark hair. It's a bit of an unusual pose. I wasn't sure if I should include the hair, but I really needed to in terms of context, and she wanted it in there. So it'll just end up being dark, fairly soft shapes over here. I could switch to a bigger brush if I wanted, but just thinning down the paint a little and getting the general idea in here is all I need to do. This isn't about detail. Just kind of about placement. If it gets to be too large an area, I'll get a bigger brush.